Can't get any words. Podcast on blast, giving you the real talk, no holding back. Can't get any worse, we'll make you see. There's always a silver lining. We'll set you free, so join the movement. Let's change the game with the Can't Get Any Worse podcast.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Can't Get Any Worse podcast. Your boy is sick as fuck this morning, so I've decided to just come in and give you half an hour of power. Half hour of power. That's probably what we're going to call this one, because my voice is not going to hold out for our regular scheduled listening. So I've all morning, it's about 10 o'clock now, I've coated my throat. Another potentially good name, coated my throat. And yeah, it feels like it's going to hold off for about half an hour, I reckon, and then she's going to be gone. So this is my Travis Scott Sicko Mode moment. Oh, fuck, it's already hurting, and I don't even know if we're a minute in. I'm sorry to anyone that's woken up on their Tuesday and just has to listen to my gravelly as fuck voice. But yeah, basically, both the boys were off school last week with whatever the fuck this is, right? I don't think it's any of the big ones that fucking everyone stresses about. But yeah, I think it's just a regular fucking flu that's knocked us all on our ass. And Nikita and the boys have both had it. And I thought I was sweet. I thought I was like an immortal. Nothing can hold me down. And then about, probably this time yesterday on Sunday, just fucking snuck in there and knocked me on my ass. So this is where we're at. But yeah, like I said, full-time dadding last week. Nikita couldn't take any time off work. So I took the week off, even though a lot of people would be like, but James, you don't fucking work anyway. Technically, I do. Technically, I've carved out a little path for myself to do the cabinet making shit at the same time as trying to juggle all this shit. So shut the fuck up. But anyway, it's I feel for any full-time parents out there, whether you're a mum or a dad or another, like Ash identifies as. But I need to recoat my throat. It's not going to hold out, boys and girls. Oh, does that sound better? Does that sound smoother? I think it does. But just fucking chaos, hey? And it doesn't, like, you dose the kids up with medicine because they're like Westy, for the first time in probably, 3 years, had a daytime sleep last week. And I was like, fuck, he must be sick. So no matter how sick they are, though, you dose them up with all this medicine and they just jump around destroying the house. And I'm like, fuck me. Now I've got to clean this shit up. So any single parents out there, I fucking feel for you. I definitely feel for you. But Nikita had, what day was it? Friday, I think she had off with us. Or it might have even been Saturday. I don't fucking know. But basically the kids are bored. They obviously can't do much with being sick. And this is when I realized that Nikita and I are like approaching that level of old parent, because I'm looking around, I'm like, oh, play the PlayStation, play board games or something. And they didn't want to do any of that. And my lovely wife, Nikita, she comes up to them and genuinely says to them, why don't you draw or color? And I was like, and I'm looking at these two kids that have just destroyed the house. They're fucking digging. They're breaking shit. They're throwing stuff at each other. They're wrestling and fighting. And I'm like, in what world are these two going to sit down and draw and color? It just sounded like such an old person thing to say to a couple of kids. But then she backed it up. I go, because I laughed. And she's like, what are you laughing at? And I'm like, I don't think little boys just sit there and draw and color. Like, maybe little girls. Seems like a little girl trait. But yeah, these two are definitely not going to sit down and draw and color, at least for an extended period of time. But fuck me. Whew, need to breathe this one out. This is a struggle. I hope you guys are sitting there going, thank fuck James has recorded this. The three people that listen to this every week are probably going, oh, I don't know what we would have done with all our spare time on Tuesday morning if James didn't come and croak down our fucking ear holes. Ugh. But anyway, yeah. Then I called her out on the drawing and colour, and she goes, well, okay then. Why don't you two just jump around? And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Who jumps around these days? Like, I felt like she might as well have said, why don't you get a hula hoop and a stick and just go fucking chase it down the hill and tap it? But yeah, we're officially in our old parent era, I reckon. But here's my little story for the week, and I'm probably, if I don't clip it out of the podcast, I'm for sure doing like some sort of little reel about it or whatever. But yeah, test results have come back, and Weston is definitely my son. So the one day that he went to school last week was Monday, right? We pick him up, he comes home, or fucking mum picks him up, whatever. And he comes home, and we're sitting there, and he goes, "Oh, I got to show you guys something." We're like, "Oh, okay." He's fucking, I don't know, drawn a picture or learnt a new fucking times table, whatever grade 2ers do, right? And he comes running out, and in his hand, he's got this little tiny pencil, right? And it's more or less just like the head of the pencil, like the lead and the little cone bit. And we're like, "Oh, that's cool, I guess." And he's like, "Yeah, I spent all day putting it through the sharpener at school." And we're like, "Oh, okay. So what, fuck, where was I going with that?" Oh, I asked him something like, "Oh, how long did that take you?" And he goes, "Well, from when school started to morning tea, I got it to this far. And then from morning tea to lunchtime, I got it to like halfway. And then from lunchtime to the end of school, I got it to this size." And I'm like, "So you're telling me I sent you to your private school education today and you just sat there sharpening a pencil all day?" And he's like, "Yeah, pretty much." And I'm like, "What did the teacher say to all this?" And he's like, "She was cool with it." So either he's a little shit like I was at school, and the teacher's like, "If James is over there distracting himself, thank fuck, now I don't have to deal with him." Or I don't know what the other fucking alternative is. I don't know. If you know what might be happening with Westy's school and why they're just putting him in a corner to sharpen pencils, like some sort of Taiwanese sweat camp or something? I don't fucking know. My brain is not working. There probably won't be a clip this week. I don't know if you guys have jumped on board with that yet, but my funny bone has left my body, except my dick. There you go. There's your one fucking zinger for the week while I'm dying. Now I'm going to coat my throat yet again. Oh, yes. That is some good water. Just regular old tap water, that one is. I thought cold water might hurt my throat a little bit. So in case anyone was playing along at home. But the one reel that I did do this week, I recorded myself. So like I said, everyone's been sick as fuck. Saturday night comes around, and this is when Nikita really started to like come down. So she's sitting there and she's blowing her nose with toilet paper because we're out of tissues, and she goes, "Oh, can you run to the servo and get some tissues?" And I was like, "Fucking fine." So I go to a seedy Beanley servo at, I don't know, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And I didn't realize how sus this looked until it happened, right? So I've got the box of tissues, your regular box of fucking tissues, put it on the counter, and the man behind the counter just looks at me and says, "Big night ahead of you, buddy." And I didn't fucking click to start with, and I've just looked down, and this lovely Indian man behind the counter thought that I was buying an entire box of tissues to go home and just aggressively beat my dick in the fucking comfort of my house. So, yeah, I turned around and there was just an old lady behind me. I'm like, she didn't need to fucking hear that, buddy. Like, I get you're here on your Saturday night, bored as fuck, but there's no need to embarrass me and remind this lovely lady of her golden years of when she just used to fucking fuck around at the train tracks and cop some cock for cash. But that was basically, that's all the fun stories from my week, really. And trust me, I was going to pump them the fuck up for this week. But like I said, we're doing a trimmed down episode. I don't know. I feel like I've apologized enough for the shortness of this episode and the shitness of this episode. Hopefully if anyone stumbles across this podcast this week, this is not how it is every week, all right? So go back and listen to last week's episode. I thought that was pretty fun. I thought I was onto it last week. So go listen to that one and then listen to next week's, which I guarantee the laughs will be back bigger and better. We've actually, I don't know if it's you guys sharing it around or whatever, but the last couple of weeks we've had another tiny little bump in listens and stuff like that. So that's nice. Makes it a lot easier to come in here and record with my gravelly throat, knowing that some people are actually listening to this now. But you just got to fucking push through and get it done. You know what I mean? Let's. I've got a butter menthol in my mouth as well, so if that's coming through the mic, again, my apologies. I'm gonna have a sip, and then we're gonna get into my week in comedy, right? All right, let's kick it off. This isn't really my week in comedy, but like I told you last week, I went and saw James McCann at Sit Down Comedy Club on Wednesday night, and dude was fucking hilarious. Like, it's stupid even saying it, but before he even got on stage, he had a couple of openers from the scene, and Craig Quartermain was one of his openers. Fuck me, this dude is legit one of my favourite people on the scene. Like, funny as fuck. Just all his jokes and shit, and obviously goes without saying, he's been in the scene for many, many years. I think he said during his set it was like 25 years or something. So you would hope by the time you're that far into comedy, you'd have a bit of chat about you know what I mean? But yeah, get to James McCann, fucking crushed. And obviously a lot of people do it when they're in Australia. They work out like their new material, their new hour, whatever, that they're going to go and tour America and fucking Europe and shit with. And I suppose with him being an Australian, he probably felt slightly more comfortable to just be churning out that new gear during his set, like to the point where he had like a notebook and shit on stage, and he's like, yeah, I did this one, this one didn't really work. And then he'd read a title and he'd go, I'm not even going to try that one. But then he'd get back to the mic and be like, fuck it, let's do it. And a lot of the shit was refreshing to hear in the scene. He dropped a lot of gay gear, a lot of retard gear, a lot of fucking all the no words in this era, right? And it just reflects so much on how much he's been hanging out with like Gillis and McCusker and shit like that over in the States, that just I feel like a big thing is, so Gillis and McCusker, I think they're killing the scene in America at the moment, because especially for like my generation, because they came up on shit like Simpsons, South Park, fucking all that shit that would tiptoe on the line, right? Especially South Park. And now they've just gone, well, fucking, it was funny then. Why is it not funny now? And they're just pushing through, and their ticket sales and shit are like reflecting that. Like people want to hear it. Like, I don't even know if I said this on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, but I'm not going to say who or where or whatever, but I did a gig a couple of weeks ago now, and I was talking to the room runner before the show, and he goes, we did a show here last week, and one of the acts got up and they dropped the gay slur starting with F. You guys will know what that means. And he goes, my asshole just fucking tightened up. And he's like, I was just sitting there waiting for the crowd's reaction. Biggest laugh of the fucking night. The crowd just loved it. So I would like to hope we're on that backswing, right, of just society going so woke and over the top and fucking lame. And now we're coming back to like, oh, actually, this shit is pretty funny. Like James McCann, I don't know how much I should fucking say, but again, he said a gay slur as well. And he's like, we have to fucking bring it back. So again, he's working on shit. I'm not going to come in here and cancel him. Someone will listen to this and go, dear James McCann, I don't like what I heard on the Can't Get Any Worse podcast. And he'll go, what the fuck is that shit? I've never heard of that. And then, I don't know, shit on my, I don't fucking know. My brain's not there. Soz. Let me have another sip. Anyway, he was crushing, right? And like I said, I had a set at the Doobop Bar after the James McCann show, but the show started like 10 minutes later, whatever. Not mad at it. But that led to me missing like his closer and shit like that, which the guys I went with said that fucking it was hilarious. So Devo that I missed out on that shit. But yeah, left about 10 minutes early, I suppose, and cruised over into inner Brisbane, paid a quazillion dollars for fucking parking, and yeah, walked to Doobop Bar. And I got there during the break, right? And I was asking the other people, I'm like, oh, how's the night been? And I'm getting very mixed reactions. Like some people saying they bombed, some people saying they crushed, things like that. So I'm trying to gauge. The break finishes and there's 4 people before me, right? And I don't think any of those 4 like crushed it, unless, like, no offense to them. Like, I genuinely feel like they'd say that about themselves. So I'm sitting there going, oh, fuck. Like, I wonder if these people that thought they crushed actually crushed. And as I'm watching, like, the crowd was just, like, so tired. There just seemed to be no energy in the room and shit. And that fucking sucks if you're just up there on stage trying to make people laugh, obviously, right? And so then it comes my time. And I get up there, and I knew just watching the 4 before me, I just had to fucking go all out, right, and try and be over the top, just fucking wacky, overemphasize all my arm actions, blah, blah, blah. Throw in a little bit of crowd work if I can. And, yeah, the crowd was just fucking not there for a day. Like, even to the point, I jumped up, I go, hey, everyone, how are we? Fucking crickets. And I'm like, fuck yeah, that's the energy I need. And then I get into my bits, and a couple of my bits I start off and I'm just like, oh, do you guys remember this? Or what do you guys think about this? And just fucking, normally you get a couple of people in the crowd, they're like, yeah, fucking, or they'd say what they think. This crowd, absolutely nothing. And yeah, I just kept going through my set. And there was a couple of quotes that I heard on podcasts this week, right? And I jotted them down in my notes just because I was like, oh, that's a crucial bit of information. And literally that day, I reread this one in my fucking note thing. And it was from the king himself, Joey Diaz. And he still does a little podcast with Lee Syatt. And they used to do their bigger podcast back in the day. To be honest, I don't know if their new podcast is as big or smaller. But basically, Lee's trying to be a comedian now. And it's just like an hour to an hour and a half of Joey just giving him advice and trying to steer him in the right direction, right? And Joey said this thing. I wrote it down here so I didn't fucking fuck it up. But he said, perform like there's a gun to your head and your family doesn't eat this week unless you crush. And literally while I was watching the room just die, I was sitting there and I was just saying this to myself, and I was like, fucking, even if I bomb, I'm just going to throw everything I've got into this set. And I watched back the recording. Like, I'm more than happy with how I performed, if you want to call it that. But just could not fucking win them over. And I got into my last joke and I just said, you guys are fucking heaps of fun, eh? I might as well have stayed in my bedroom and just said this into my mirror tonight. Got a little bit of a chuckle because they could obviously tell how fucking hard and miserable this would have been. But definitely not a great set. Fun fact about the Doobop Bar, I approached them the same time as I approached the rum distillery back in the day for that to be my comedy room. But financially, the distillery worked out better. And then in the meantime, they've landed a deal with the big dogs in the Brisbane comedy scene. So going off Wednesday night, secretly pretty happy about that. That scene is just not for me. Like, everyone was in like suits or dress shirts and slacks and shit. And I'm like, nah, not for me. Which is another reason why I'm stoked about Distillery Road at the moment is they're my people. These local Logan people, all they want to hear is about dicks and shit and stuff. And yeah, I'm pretty stoked to just be building a little bit of a hub here for myself. And yeah, we might touch on that after this actually. So another quote that I wrote down this week, and hopefully these help some of you guys, but it was from the Lord himself, Mr. Joseph Rogan, which again, we'll talk about his special after this quickly. He said, I forget who his guest was, but this really helped with my hour that I've been writing, whatever the fuck you want to call it, show, whatever, is I've been writing it like crazy, right? And I thought, like I said to Adrian and Ash when they're on the podcast, that I've gone through my favorite comedy specials, done a word count just to roughly work out how long an hour should be, right? And try and steer this show to tell the story that I want it to tell. And I was getting reasonably close to that. I was probably 1,000 to 1,500 words off where I thought it needed to be, right? And I knew that I was going to have to go back through it another 3 or 4 times and trim absolute fucking garbage out of it, make it tighter, add some funnier tags, all that sort of shit, right? So I knew that was coming. But on Saturday night, I stayed up and I did a fair decent chunk of writing again. And this was Joe Rogan's quote. He said, "Look at your joke like you're a hater and analyze the fuck out of it and just delete anything that doesn't need to be there." And I started the first 3 jokes in the hour, right? And I probably spent maybe 2 hours doing this just on those 3 jokes, just analyzing the fuck out of it and just being like, okay, I get that. Like if I was telling the story on the podcast or something, that would probably be in there. But in joke form on stage, that doesn't fucking it's not a crucial bit of information for the story. Like when you get to the punchline, the crowd isn't going to go, "Oh, thank fuck he told us he was at fucking, I don't know, Beanley McDonald's." That wasn't actually in there, but trying to give an example, you know what I mean? So yeah, I fucking went on a deleting frenzy, added a little bit of shit in, like funny tags and stuff to somewhat replace it. But those 3 jokes I've trimmed majorly, like, which is good, I suppose. It's not good when you look at the word count and go, fuck, I've just lost another 1,000 words or whatever. But I think it's going to make the show better for sure. So hopefully those 2 quotes ring through to some of you guys with some of the stuff that you guys are working on at the moment. But yeah, Joe Rogan, I guess he did release his new special yesterday, but it was, I think it was only like the 2nd or 3rd live Netflix special that they've done. So he recorded the whole thing live, which obviously would be nerve-wracking as fuck. Like no mistakes, can't fucking take any risks, anything like that, which hats off to him. He did. Some dickhead, of course, had to have his claim to fame and yell out during the special. And Rogan went to keep going with his jokes and he goes, "Oh, actually, I better fucking address it." And just goes, "What did you say?" And the dude said something fucking stupid about like cobalt mines or something that Rogan's talked about on his podcast 6 million times. And yeah, Rogan put him back in his place, carried on with his special. I think it was pretty cool to see him tune out of his gear, address something in the room, then get back into it. Made the whole live experience a little cooler. So I believe, I haven't gone back to check, but I believe like that. Actually, I'm curious about this, whether that live special is now the special that's on Netflix or whether they've gone through and trimmed a couple of things like that. A couple of pregnant pauses that he had where he was somewhat sort of guessing, or not guessing, thinking about where to go next, things like that. So I'm for sure going to be going back and rewatching it. Look, as much as I hate to say it, I wasn't blown away by it, right? And I think he said the other week that it's been like 6 years or something since his last special. So he went to record this in 2020. Obviously, the world went to shit, and he's just been saving it up till now and chopping and changing it, like I just spoke about with the show I'm writing. But yeah, he said the other week on his podcast that he's stoked with where this show was at, and that's why I want to go back and watch it. Because when you watch a special on Netflix, you just hear the laughter and shit like that, right? But in the live one, I don't know if they had the crowd mic not boosted up, or it just didn't appear to be as much laughter coming from the crowd as you'd normally hear in a special, right? So that's another reason why I want to go back and watch it and just see, were some of these jokes falling flat, or were the crowd mics just not doing what they needed to do during the live event? I don't fucking know. But and that's, I'm not saying it was absolute dog shit. Like there was jokes in it that I laughed out loud to, right? It was definitely a good special, but when you put a bloke like Rogan on a pedestal of, he is probably like the best of what we have to show fucking aliens if they come down at the moment, you know what I mean? Like he's killed Fear Factor, he's killed UFC, he's killed podcasting game, he's killed comedy, he's opened his own fucking comedy. Why am I comedy club? Why did I just blank on that? My brain is zapped. So yeah, I definitely don't want to write it off just yet. I'm going to go back, rewatch it, and then I might give you a little 2-second refresher next week when I'm feeling a bit better. But I'll play the motivational clip for the week. I'm going to skip Premature premise and all that this week. My apologies. Hopefully you guys understand. But this was a cool one. Popped up from Jordan Peterson this week for me. So let me bring it over here. Oh, fuck, wrong way. Now, I tested the fucking mics before I hit record this week. So if this doesn't work, fuck me. All right, ready? Here we go. Motivational clip for the week from Jordan Peterson.
Don't underestimate the hole your absence would leave. You know, each of us, we're remarkable creatures and we have something to offer to the world, to the people we love, to the world at large. It's our responsibility to make that manifest, and we move a little farther away from paradise every time that doesn't happen.
So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Especially that sort of opening sentence is, don't underestimate the absinthe. Ash still hasn't finished that bottle. Absence your like presence would have on the people around you. So if you're feeling down and shit like that, as lame as that old saying is, this too shall pass or whatever. No matter how dark you're feeling or whatever, like it's going to wash over. And you just got to keep fucking pushing through. You know what I mean? But I've never been big on Jordan Peterson, right? Like I used to hate him going on Rogan and all that. And I don't know if it's his voice or his cadence or like a couple of times back in the day, he like sounded a little bit like whingy and whiny or whatever. But the last 12 months or so, I think I've come around to him, and I hit Ash and Adrian up because I know they've read a couple of his books when they first came out. And I'm like, are they an easy read or a tough read? Just because I'm somewhat invested in Jordan Peterson now. He was on Rogan last week or whatever. Listened to the whole episode and I thought it was a good one. So maybe I was just in a shit fucking mind state when that first came out or whatever. But yeah, that's the motivational clip for the week. I said I was going to touch on it before, but I just fucking skimmed past it. Distillery Road, August 18th. I said last week I was going to announce the lineup, right? And that was because I was still trying to lock in an MC. So, a little bit of inside baseball for you guys that are listening. Some of you guys might even come to the show again. But basically, we did the last show and I spoke about it on the podcast. There are a couple of things that I wasn't happy with, a couple of things the venue said they could do to increase the experience for the comedians, the crowd members, everyone involved, right? And make it a bigger and better show for everyone. So we've been working quietly in the background towards all that. Now, this is just such a fucking me thing and to be in my own head. Because of that, I wanted a lineup of people that I suppose I'm mates with, I guess, if you want to call it that. People that I just knew would come jump on the show and fucking I could put a show on in the corner of a fucking barn to 3 people and they would get off stage and be like, that was a fucking sick gig, man. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. And looking at the changes we've made, I think every comedian in Brisbane or Gold Coast that I could have put on this show would have had a sick time anyway. But because I'm so in my head, I'm like, nah, I don't want to fucking risk it. So I reached out to a couple of MCs. They were booked for that night. So I was tossing around. I was trying to find someone else that I sort of felt comfortable, sort of thought was going to do a good job, blah, blah, blah. And then I I think Nikita said it to me. She's like, why don't you just MC again? And I was like, I'm not a fucking MC. But again, I spoke about it a couple of weeks ago. I want to start giving it a crack again. And when Ash and Adrian were on the show, I was like, oh, I sort of want to make it a Jimmy Misson and Friends show sort of thing. So I was just like, fuck it. Like, why not? Why not give it another crack? The venue understands that we're making steps to move towards shit. And to be honest, I don't think they're going to care if I bomb my dick off because I know all the other comedians I've booked are crushers. So, yeah, I'm going to be emceeing the Distillery Road show on August 18th. See how we fucking go. Headlining the show is one of my good pals, Mr. Nick Carr, who I've put on as headliner before. But again, like I said, I wanted to get people that I feel comfortable with, going to come have a sick time and give the audience a fucking awesome time. And he just fits that scene of that venue so well. Just the the over-the-top sort of bogany, if you want to call it that. But he's just going to come, do what I need from him, and fucking leave, giving the audience a sick time. So, August 18th, if you guys want to come along to that, the more people I know in the crowd, I don't know if that's going to be better or worse. Probably going to be better because it'll slightly make me feel more comfortable, I suppose. But probably worse if I bomb my dick off and then have to face them after. But anyway, we're going to fucking crush. We're going to do all right. Again, I'll say it again. Tickets are exhausted, if that's what you want to fucking call it. Just rock up. There is enough room for fucking everyone. And like I said, if you get to the door and you can't get in or whatever, message me, call me, fucking DM me, and I'll come to the door and the venue's going to let you in anyway. So we're not going to have that issue. Just rock up. But shows for this week. The day this comes out, Tuesday the 6th, I'm booked for Soul Bar up on the sunny coast. I 100% don't want to pull out. You guys know I hate pulling out of gigs, but Nikita said to me this morning, you're probably going to have to consider it. So if there's anything I can do in my power to get better by tomorrow night, or the night you guys are listening to this, I'll be at Soul Bar at Maroochydore, which is always a fucking sick gig. I think I've bombed there like once, and probably bomb there again tomorrow when I lose my voice halfway through my set. But that's the only one I've got this week. Oh, here we go. It's fucking going. So send submissions via DM on Instagram. Can't Get Any Worse Podcast. Send me an email, cantgetanyworsepod@gmail.com. Appreciate any of you that did make it to the end of this fucking shit show. I'm going to go cough a lung up and fucking cry myself to sleep. Thank you all so much. Share the podcast around, and I will see you later.